It was the second time. It was the second time I had sex, or in my 16-year-old mind, made love to my year-long 18-year-old boyfriend. A few months later, I found out that I was pregnant. I also found out that he was sleeping with his coworker. I drove up to his job to see him, and she came on and told me to leave with a smirk that said, "Haha, I got him now," and told me that he didn't want to see me anymore. I was devastated and felt so alone. I didn't want to get an abortion. In my soul, I felt that killing an innocent life was condemning me to hell, and it did in a sense. I remember walking into the clinic with his mother and my mom. I hadn't spoken to him, but his mom was very adamant about being there when the procedure was going to take place. I was hysterical. I was taken back into a room where I cried to the nurse, telling her to please talk to my mother and his mom, that they were forcing me to do this. And she just took me back to the room and told me to put on a gown. So I did, although I hesitated. I was always taught to be obedient. They did a sonogram and my child had a heartbeat. I remember jumping off the table and I ran into the waiting room. I was crying and saying, "Please don't make me do this. The baby has a heartbeat." They both looked so angry and disappointed, and his mom vehemently told me to go back into the room while my mom nodded in agreement and pointed towards the room. At that point, some entity took over because I became robotic. I don't believe that I ever grieved and that I was ever able to know true happiness until my son now was born. Now I think of the effects that this has had on my life. How is this legal? To not have a voice, to be allowed in a country of freedom, and then to be able to kill an innocent child? Wasn't adoption discussed? No, it wasn't. Why was I only counseled for 3 minutes? Why were his mother and mine allowed to force me into this? And why didn't the doctor or nurse help me? Knowing the repercussions of this choice. Why is our government allowing this to occur, knowing the effects that this has on the entire society and women? I was too young to think about these things. I fell asleep spiritually. Well, God had plans for me, and part of that plan was my son, who is a miracle, by the way, because after the damage from the abortion, I had 2 ectopic pregnancies and was told I could not have children. My son put things into perspective for me just by existing, although there is also a reminder of the life that isn't here, that didn't have a voice, did not have a choice like I felt was taken from me. So now I'm speaking on behalf of my aborted child. My unborn child, which I feel was going to be a boy, would be 23 years old today. I am pro-life. I have come to know God and know that there are no mistakes. I have been so angry, yet I have to take that anger and use that energy towards making a difference. It is hell having your maternal right taken from you. Now my son that does not deserve it has suffered the consequences of that day because I often feel disconnected. Out of all the traumas that I have endured, this by far was the most painful, and the one wound that is so deep yet no one can see it. Talking about it is my therapy. Doing something about it, like posting this video, is my redemption. I am pro-life.